The webinar that I will be doing is on physical inventory. There are basically three different ways of taking a physical inventory. You can either do it manually by writing your inventory down. You can take it with a scanner that's attached to your computer, or you can use a portable inventory reader, which we call a data collector. The first important thing that you do in Enterprise is you want to make sure that you are at your store number that you're going to be taking the inventory at. So at the top level right organization, you want to switch to the store number that you're going to be taking that inventory on. So in this example, we're at store 1. So the first step is you're going to click on the inventory tab, and then you're going to go to physical inventory. This will list all of your physical inventory options below physical inventory. If you're going to take a physical inventory manually and you're not going to use any type of scanner, you can go to print worksheets, and this will print out a worksheet for you to keep track of your inventory. You can print worksheets for your entire store, or you can do it by supplier. You can sort it by supplier, class, SKU, or location. In this case, I'm going to do supplier. If you want to do one specific supplier, you can choose and select that supplier to the right of by supplier. In this example, I'm going to do my inventory on my entire store. I'm going to sort it by supplier, and I'm going to leave everything blank and click on Add Job and Run. This will bring you to the report history, where you can click on the physical inventory worksheet. It'll bring the worksheet up on the screen, and as you'll see, you have the SKU, and then you have a size grid that gives you a place to write in exactly how many you have of each size once you print this out. Once you record your physical inventory onto paper, you're ready to enter that into the computer. So you can go to Inventory, Physical Inventory, and enter physical counts. Here you can look up the SKU or type the SKU in and press Enter. And if it has a size grid related to it, that size grid will pop up on the screen. If you wanted to show what you currently have on hand in the computer, you can click to the left of Show On Hand Quantities, and that'll show your on-hands that are currently in the system. Then you can simply go to the sizes that you recorded and type in those quantities. Once you're done, you can click on the Save button down at the bottom. And that saves those counts in a temporary count bucket. You can continue that process until you have everything entered into your computer for physical counts. That's if you're doing it manually. Another option is if you have a scanner attached to your computer, whether you have a laptop and you're taking that laptop around your store with the scanner attached to scan your merchandise that you're counting, you can click on the Scanning tab. Sometimes people will put their laptop on a rolling cart with the scanner attached to their laptop and just scan their merchandise into their count file. So you go into the Scanning tab and you can just scan each item, and if you have the autosave feature gun, you can just scan, 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 and it puts those counts, and you'll see those counts down below. On the last count, you can just click on Add and then click on Save, and that saves those counts and puts them into your temporary count bucket. You could easily go back and forth, so if you find a SKU that doesn't have a label with a barcode, you could easily click on SKU and then put in the SKU that you need to count and the size and the quantity and save that. There is also the option of using a portable barcode reader. which we call a data collector. If you have one of those, either a PT2000 data collector or a Metrologic data collector, you can use those and take those around your store. They're portable, and just scan all your inventory, and then we can come and download that into the system. To get to that screen, it's just Inventory and Physical Inventory and Upload Physical Inventory. So once you're in the screen, you're in Upload Physical Inventory, you're going to choose the reader type. We're going to upload from reader. So if you're using the Metrologic, you'll choose the Metrologic. If you're using the Percon, you'll choose the Percon PT2000. It'll ask you for your COM port, where it's hooked into. And we can help you at RIX get all of that installed, the software for the readers, and help you with that installation process and the download. Once you're ready and you have everything set up, you can just click on Get Data from Reader, and that's going to upload all of your counts that you went around and scanned into the computer and puts those into the temporary count bucket. So you could actually have a reader and upload that reader, and you can enter in manual counts through Enter Physical Inventory like I showed you in the beginning, and those will all just merge together. One won't override the other one. So you can do both if you're doing some manual and some, whether you're scanning them directly in or using the reader. Before you even get started with taking an inventory for your store, I recommend always clicking on View Physical Counts just to make sure that there is not a count sitting in there that you never got updated. So before you even start counting things, whether you're manually counting or doing them with a reader, I would click on View Physical Counts, and that's going to run automatically. Then you can pull this report up and see if there's any current counts in the system. If there's any current counts before you get started, we can help you delete those. That way you don't have false counts before you even get started. The other thing that this report is good for is maybe you are currently working on an inventory and you like to just view what's in there so far. This is a good way to do that as well, just through the View Physical Count. If you have used a reader and you've uploaded that reader, the next step that you want to do is use the UPC Not Found report. This will print out a report of any of the UPCs that got kicked out, which would be UPCs that for one reason or another are not in your system. So it'll bring you to the report history. You'll see the UPC Not Found report, and you'll click on that to bring it up on the screen. It's going to list all of the invalid UPCs. It's going to show you the SKU that you scanned before and the SKU that you scanned after the invalid UPC. So that way you can go look out on the floor, find that invalid UPC, and whether you need to print a new label and manually count it or print a new label and scan the UPCs that got kicked out. That'll allow you to do that. Once you find those UPCs that were kicked out and you find out exactly what SKU, size and width, or if it was not size related, then you can go to Enter Physical Counts and you can enter those UPCs, which will be the SKUs that got kicked out. So you would just type in that SKU or use the lookup to find the SKU. And then you would enter in the sizes for the UPC that got kicked out and save it. Now we're to the point we've either entered all of our counts in manually, or we've scanned them, or we've used a reader and uploaded those, so we're ready to do the items not counted report. This is a very important report to run. What this report tells you, it looks through your computer system and it tells you all of the SKUs, all of the style numbers that have some sort of a count in your system, whether it's a positive count or a negative count, and you have not counted that SKU at all. So you either missed completely counting it, where you can take this list, print it out, and make sure that you didn't miss anything, or it might be SKUs that you returned to the supplier and you forgot to take them out of stock, so it still shows that you have on hands for that style when you really don't. If you ran this report and did nothing with it, it will keep whatever it shows is on your on hand on the items not counted report in your system. So it's really important to either add a count for what's there, or there's a way to zero out a count to tell it that this item or these sizes are not here. So you're already at store one. Again, it's very important when you're running anything to do with physical inventory that you're at the right store that you're working on. And you can sort it by supplier, class, SKU, or location. I'm just going to do supplier. And if you counted your entire store, you would just leave this blank. If you counted an entire supplier, then you would just put that supplier in the by supplier field. Same thing goes for class, color, SKU, or product custom entries. In this example, I have counted my entire store, so I'm going to sort it by supplier, and I'm going to leave everything else blank and add job and run. So this report's going to show me the SKU and then exactly what my computer says that I have on hand. So I'm going to take this report and print it and double check my inventory. Basically, do I have it? And if I have it, what do I have? Or I don't have it and I need to get rid of it. So once I've gone through that report and I'm ready to make my adjustments, I'm going to go to enter physical counts again. And I'm going to start taking the SKUs that I either found or didn't find and either zero it out, or I'm going to enter a count for it. So if I found that this style really had some quantities, I would put those quantities in and I would click on Save. The other example would be if I found out that I did not have any on hand, maybe I returned these to the supplier and I didn't take them out of stock, I would bring this SKU up, the size grid would come up blank, and to zero this out, all I have to do is click on Save. I don't have to put 0 in each size. I just have to click on Save, and that tells it I don't have any of that style. Even though it said that I had 20 of them, I don't have any. And by doing that, that saves that and tells it that I do not have that style on hand anymore. But if I do have it, I would pull up the SKU, the size grid would come up, and I would go down to the sizes and put exactly how many I have in each size and click on Save. We do have a utility if you have several pages of items not counted and you've gone through and you've counted what you truly have, and you say, okay, I've counted what I have and I want to completely zero out everything else. There is a way that we can walk you through and say enter 0 counts for everything on the items not counted report. And that's through inventory, physical inventory, and enter 0 counts. You probably won't see that on your screen. We have to enable it. It's very dangerous, so you want to make sure that we walk you through it. But if you do have a lot of items where you think it's going to take you too much time to pull up each SKU with nothing there and clicking on Save to zero it out, then we can help you by going through the enter 0 counts. But you got to make sure that everything else that you did have off of that items not count report that you counted before we can do this. So that's the enter 0 counts where we can do that if needed. The next report that we're going to run is the variance items report. This is going to show you by supplier, if you sort it that way, everything that you counted by SKU, the quantities of each size, what the computer shows you're supposed to have, and what the variance is. So to run that, I just go to Inventory, Physical Inventory, and Variance Items Report. Again, you're going to be at your store number at the top right since you're working on that store number for your inventory. So you can sort it by supplier, class, SKU, or location. I'm going to sort it by supplier. And there's the criteria. In most cases, you're going to leave this criteria blank. In my situation, I had done inventory on my entire store, so I'm going to leave that all blank. Even if you're working on one vendor, it's good to leave it blank, because what if you accidentally counted a shoe from a different vendor? Maybe you were working on New Balance and you accidentally counted a Nike. If you put New Balance in here, you wouldn't realize that you counted a Nike because it wouldn't come up on the report. Then when you go to update your inventory, if you only counted that one Nike shoe, one quantity, one size, it's going to update that SKU to only having one on hand, and it may have 40 on hand. So my recommendation is when you run the variance items report, just leave this blank and then sort it however you want to sort it by supplier. This way it will bring up everything that's in your temporary count file and show you what you counted versus what the computer says and the variance. So we're going to click on Add Job and Run. So it'll bring you to the report history and you'll just click on Variance. And you can print this report out. So I would recommend taking this report and double checking. Maybe someone accidentally counted a section twice. This is where you're going to find that type of information. So here it's going to show you the style number, what you counted, the quantities per size, what your computer says you have on hand, and what the variance is. At the very end of the report, you're going to have totals for your store to see exactly your total counted for that store, total on hand, and total variance. You'll be able to tell what you were long and what you were short. So you can print this out and take it and double check yourself. In this example, maybe I printed this out and I found that, okay, I counted 2 9.5 Bs. My on hand says 1. And I found out we truly only have 1. So now I need to make an adjustment. Because you realize whatever your count is, when we go to update our inventory, it's going to take what it says counted and make that your new on hands. So you want to make sure that your count is correct. So I'm going to go back to Inventory, Physical Inventory, and enter physical counts to make any adjustments that I need to make from my variance report. I'm going to pull up the SKU. And I will be able to see exactly what's been counted so far. And if I wanted to, I could click on the Show On-Hand Quantities, and that'll show what the on-hand shows that I'm supposed to have. So in that example, I found out I counted in black, it shows what I counted in black, 2 9.5 Bs. My on-hand said 1. I went out and double checked and found no, I truly have 1. So I want to change that to 1. And then I'm going to save this. So all you're doing is modifying. So if I found that I had an 8.5, I just put an 8 there. If I found out that I had 2 9s instead of 1 9, I just changed the 1 to a 2. And then once I'm done editing this and making sure that my count is correct, I can click on Save. And that saves that. When you're completely done making any adjustments from the variance report, I recommend going back to Inventory and Physical Inventory and printing a final variance report. So you can go to Variance Items Report, and you can rerun this report. Down at the bottom you'll see there is a place where you can click on Print Only Varying Items. If you only want the report to print just the varying items, you can do that. That's what I would probably do the first time you run it when you go out to double check your inventory. All you're really concerned about is I want to know my varying items so I can double check things. So in that case, you would click that. When you go to do your final variance, you might want to do 2 reports, one with it checked and then another one without it checked. Without it checked, it gives you absolutely everything that you counted, whether you had a variance or not. And then you can just add job and run, and that'll give you your final variance report to have on hand. And then your very last step, once you've entered your counts in, whether it was by the worksheets or entered them in manually or a scanner attached to your computer or uploaded them from a reader, done your UPC not found report if you had a reader, portable reader, done your items not counted report, done your variance report, and you made sure after the items not counted report that you zeroed everything out or you counted what you truly had. You do that final variance item report, you're ready to update your inventory. So that final variance report, whatever your count says on that report, that's going to make it your new on hand once you click on Update Inventory and update your inventory. So our last step is Update Inventory, and it's going to ask you, have you run an items not counted report? So you got to check that. Have you entered a zero count for any items with no inventory that are on the items not counted report? And have you run a variance items report and reviewed it? And of course, made any adjustments and ran that last variance report. Once you check those, then you can click on Commit Physical Inventory. That's going to take all of your counts that are sitting in this temporary count file and anything that was on your variance report that says counted, and it's going to make that count and turn it into your new on hands. So once you click on this Commit Physical Inventory, it's going to make your count your on hand. One other thing that I want to add that's very important, since you're on a real-time system, you really want to take inventory before you're open or after you close. There's too many things that happen with your inventory that have to do with sales going on or receiving, or if you have multiple stores transferring. You really want to take your inventories, get them completely done and updated while you're not open. We strongly recommend you to do it that way. If you choose not to do it that way, you need to speak to one of the support people here at RICS and find out the appropriate steps. But again, we do not recommend taking an inventory and updating it while you have sales going on. And the last thing is, feel free to call any of our support staff to walk you through these steps of a physical inventory. It's not every day that you take an inventory. So we really encourage you to call us and we'll take you through these steps. It's really important that you follow each step when you're taking an inventory. You're taking the time to take your inventory, so you want to make sure that it's done accurately. I thank you for taking your time to view this webinar.